evening, good afternoon, good morning to wherever you are on this wonderful Gooner planet of ours. I've not said that in quite a few weeks, to be honest. It is lovely to be back. Chris will be joining us shortly. He's just running back from a corporate event he's at, but he will be with us soon. It's so nice to be back. Hello, Cooks. How are you?
Hello. I'm not too bad, thank you. How's yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Are you impressed at my intro and doing everything correctly IT wise?
95% correct. Very nearly there. Very
What did
nearly. But we'll
what
get there
did I
soon.
do wrong?
You left the picture on at the end, Amanda. You can click it away whilst the intro's going. It makes for a much more
Oh,
seamless transition. Unfortunately, our audio listeners aren't going to get to see what a fantastic IT job Amanda's done. But she's learning, guys. She's learning. She's getting there.
oh, it's so condescending, but very true, to be fair, very true. Anyway, I'd like to say hello to everybody in the chat room. Listen, we're all here for one reason, to support the Arsenal. So we look forward to your comments. And yes, of course, we are going to talk about all the signings, and then the boys are going to talk about the rumours of transfers because that's when I fall asleep. However, Cooks, the rumours are quite strong, aren't they? But let's just start with doing some bigging up the girls in the Euros. Have you watched any of it?
No. To be
Okay,
totally
that's
upfront with
absolutely
you. I'm
fine.
sorry.
I've watched it and they're through to the quarterfinals. Really, really well done. They absolutely hammered Wales. So I just want to say well done to the Lionesses and brilliant. We could actually get to the final of the Euros. It's really hard this time of year. Look, we're mid-July. Um, as I've been told, because I switch off a little bit during this time because of so much going on, but I have on relative good authority that Arsenal leave Saturday for their Far East tour. Not that I'm reading that, people. Singapore and Hong Kong. I know there's matches going on. A lot of them are going to be during work hours, which unfortunately I won't be able to watch. But AC Milan in Singapore the 23rd, Newcastle in Singapore the 27th, and Tottenham, Hong Kong the 31st, day after my 30th birthday. Cooks, how do you feel about? Don't pull eyes like that, Cookie. Do not pull eyes like that. How do you feel about playing Newcastle Tottenham in friendlies? Because they're not going to be friendlies, are they?
No, not really. I don't like it at all. I mean, on paper, they're friendlies, but there's definitely going to be a bit of an edge to those games, even though they are pre-season ones. I think it's good for fans in that corner of the globe that don't necessarily get to see those fixtures in person a lot of the time. So from that point of view, I do totally get it. But pre-season for me should just be build-up games. They shouldn't really have much significance or meaning or any meaning at all, really, apart from getting the players fit, up to speed. But now, obviously, you go into these games, you're like, right, well, I want to win them now because we're playing against sides that, we rival in the Premier League. So, yeah, they will have a bit of an edge to them. But I don't think we should deviate too much from the sort of lineups and teams that Arteta and the coaching staff have got in their heads, whether they want to play some of the youngsters or some of the new guys, and try not to read too much into the results. Obviously, it'd be great to win them, but it's about getting players up to speed and fit. But no, I would much rather be playing teams in the kind of local vicinity of where we're visiting. But hey, that's what preseason is now. I mean, we've played Barcelona and Bayern Munich and all that in preseason in the past. It's just another opportunity to commercialize football, isn't it? So it's no surprise.
It is, and I totally get it. But this is where my thoughts when with what John G just said. Don't mention injuries because I'm. Listen, we just can't go through another season of what we've been through. And do you remember when Timber joined us and got injured so early on? It's just heartbreaking. So me and John G, we're not going to put it in the universe, but I think that's what a lot of people may be thinking that we've got to avoid that. Um, Also, just to say that how's your summer been? Have you missed football? I mean, to be fair, you did a fantastic show last week with Daniel from Son of Chelsea, talking about our prospective new signing that looks like it's virtually there. Everything with Arsenal at the moment is virtually there, isn't it? I mean, you've got Fabrizio going, here we go every minute. You've got Ornstein telling us it's so close. But you did a fantastic show with Daniel, didn't you? And I really enjoyed it, actually. And I didn't think I'd ever say that about a Chelsea fan, but he certainly knew his stuff, and he was very fair on his assessment of, is it Madueke? Have I said it right
Madueke.
or not?
Madueke.
Madueke. Me? That's not bad for me, is it? So, did you enjoy doing the podcast? Because we're going to get onto that when Chris gets here, because obviously both of you want to talk about that. But did you enjoy talking to him?
Yeah, I mean, Daniel's a really good bloke, and he's a very rational, well-respected Chelsea supporter, of which there are a few. So to have him on the pod was great. If you haven't gone back and listened to the show, I'd highly recommend doing so. He gave a really good, honest, fair, well-rounded perspective on what we're getting in Noni Madueke, and I think it's a transfer that I was very dubious about. I couldn't quite understand why we were going for him, and I certainly felt after chatting with Daniel that, okay, this is a signing that I can get behind a bit more, and I can see what he's going to bring to the side. But in answer to your question about am I missing football throughout the summer, I mean, to be honest, it's been quite nice to have a break. So much of last season took it out of me, going into that game against PSG in the semi-final of the Champions League, the disappointment of losing that semi-final, and then those league games for what felt like the last 3 months were so turgid and just not fun to watch. So the excitement is definitely building. I mean, it's a month until the season starts. I think our first game is a month on Saturday. So yeah, I'm very excited for the new season. I am getting a bit of a craving for football, and I do find that I'm relentlessly scrolling Twitter at every single opportunity to see if we're close to signing anyone or if we've got the here we go on Gyokeres yet. But yeah, I just can't wait till we've got everyone through the door and we've got all those options, and it's going to be really exciting to see what team we've got lining up at Old Trafford in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, and as I said, we will talk. You want to talk about? I don't talk. You know what I'm like. I don't talk about signings until they've signed. But you know what? It's really interesting. And anyone's got any questions for us while we wait for Chris? Because if we go into all the signings that we have done, Chris wants to talk about them, so we're going to have to double up. So I think if we can just keep it to anything you want to ask us, then we'll ask questions now. And Chris should be here in the next 10, 15 minutes anyway. How I felt about football the last couple of months, it's been really interesting because it's been a lot about us, hasn't it? And we've been in the news non-stop, constantly for the last couple of weeks. So it's been interesting in that respect. I always get to this point in July and I start to think, oh, going back to football shortly, looking forward to it. My birthday's the end of July, so whenever that hits and that's finished, then the football season for me starts beginning of August. But I didn't miss it. It did take a lot out of us. I was pleased to have a few weekends free. Enjoyed watching the ladies' football. Obviously, Arsenal win the Champions League. The Arsenal ladies, that is. That was good fun to watch. But, just generally, it's nice to have a little break. But I start to get to this point now, Cooks, where I'm looking forward to going back. And first game of the season, obviously, we will be back before the season starts, with a pre-season show. We will come up with our predictions. Who's going to win the league? Who's not going to win the league? You and I said Arsenal last year, Cooks. We couldn't have been, nearly. It was so close.
No, it wasn't.
But apart from that, we were second. I know it wasn't close
we were
in the end,
nowhere
but
near.
we were
Come on.
second. We were second. And it would be, just changing the subject up a little bit, it would be very remiss of me and wrong not to mention Diogo Jota and that sad, tragic loss of life that I think has hit everybody around the world, every person in the football community as well. Cooks, it really, really affected me. I couldn't understand, such a young man to lose his life. It was absolutely tragic, wasn't it?
Yeah, certainly, and it really hit home because he's younger than me, so it was like a bit of a reality check. And I think what everyone was saying about just giving you a different perspective on life and the importance of cherishing every single moment, because you never know what is around the corner. Any one of us could be on the motorway and our tires could blow. That's just a sad reality that could happen. But yeah, it was a really tragic moment. I think it shocked the football world.
Absolutely did. And we wish his family well. Just awful. But as you can see, a young man below has joined us. And Chris,
Hello.
we have
Sorry.
held off talking about. As I go, we've held off talking about any potential signings, rumours that you lot want to talk about, or any signings that we've already made. But now you're here, we can start chatting about it. So, you two, first up, let's just talk about Martin Zubimendi. Cooks, your view on that signing and what he will bring us.
Well, I mean, it's not one I was excited about it when the news dropped in January or February or whatever it was, and obviously it's taken so long to get it over the line that it's only just happened. And yeah, great to see him in Arsenal colours. I think he will be a level up on what we had last season. You know, younger, fitter. I think he has a better range of passing, and I just hope that he's going to really unlock some of those forward players ahead of him, because I think we didn't play Jorginho a lot last season. Partey, his forward passing to unlock defences was never a real strength in his game, whereas with Zubimendi, it is a real strength. So I hope that it's going to allow someone like Odegaard not to drop deep and stay up top, and allow us to be more dangerous. So yeah, I'm very excited by the signing. Very, very excited. It's been a long time coming, and I thoroughly expect that he will start on the opening day against Manchester United and be a staple in this team.
Chris, hello.
Hello, you're right. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah.
Still in the workplace.
It's okay. You got your football hat on now. You're calm. Finish work, football now.
That's it. Zubimendi.
Zubimendi, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic signing. I think, do you know what? Last summer, I should have written this, but last summer when Liverpool were linked to him, I was a little bit like, oh, he's the sort of player I wouldn't minded us going for. And I thought to myself at the time, Liverpool getting Zubimendi might be problematic for us, because that type of player anchoring the midfield, playing that quarterback role. And somebody asked me on my blog the other day, what do you mean by a quarterback role? But that kind of deep lying guy able to distribute those diagonals, you know, that's the sort of player that we crave. And because Thomas Partey was 31 and, you know, we knew we needed to replace him, I didn't really think it was, I thought it was one of those situations where Liverpool were going to steal a march. I don't want to invoke the rage of the people on chat, but it feels like we were a year or so out from getting Klopp. Do you remember all those years ago when Wenger stayed that just year or two longer and Klopp joined Liverpool? And a lot of fans, me included, thought if Wenger might have just dropped a year earlier, then it could have been us getting Klopp. Well, that's what it felt like again. Like the timing wasn't right. But then when you hear about the stories that came out from The Athletic about how when he heard about Arsenal's interest, he was like, you know what, I'm going to stick around for another year. Makes you think that's really, really good. And this is probably a good segue, maybe, unless you want to talk about Zubimendi, Amanda, but to talk about some of the other players, because, and I've seen this on social media as well, there's lots of player only wants Arsenal. And for me, that's fantastic, because that shows a real desire. It's not just the makes us feel good. I think it actually shows players desperate to play for the shirt. And that's what we need. You're not desperate to play for the paycheck. You're desperate to play for the shirt.
Now, we are going to go through all the players. I'm happy for you two to talk because, you know, listen, I'm happy about Zubimendi, but let's go on to the goalkeeper, Chris. I'll come to you first. It's Kepa Arrizabalaga.
Arrizabalaga.
There we go. Goalkeeper, number 2, I'm assuming. But we still have got Karl-Heinz as well, haven't we?
Saliba's number 2, Amanda, just to let you know.
Number 2 goalkeeper, you know what I mean. We've still got Karl-Heinz, and obviously there's Stepford. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, I'm quite pleased that we've got a goalkeeper of his, you know, stature for £5 million.
Was that me or James?
Chris, you.
Oh, okay, sorry. I think it's a really good signing. £5 million. I looked it up. Do you remember we signed Ospina for £3 million back in the day? I went on to the national sort of the Bank of England inflation to see. This feels about the same sort of level of signing. It's not quite. I think in today's money, that £3 million is worth about 4.3 million. But basically, we're signing somebody like Ospina or Ospina level signing, but has got plenty of experience in the Premier League, has got experience playing in the Champions League as well, because he's played for Chelsea, he's played for Real Madrid, he's won trophies, he doesn't break the bank. And it sounds like he's got the kind of attitude which is, again, I think I'm going to try and push David Raya all the way. The other thing is, I think it's the right thing to do, because the signing last season of Neto just felt a bit pointless after we learned that he can't play in the League Cup. Arteta didn't trust him in the FA Cup, and then he played dead minutes, or he played a dead rubber in the Champions League. So it was a bit of a pointless understudy, and that was all done because of the Ramsdale situation, as we know. But this one feels like, yeah, this guy should and could get plenty of minutes for us, and that's what we need.
Anything to add to that, Cooks?
No, not really. I just think it's a really shrewd, straightforward piece of business, which is why I'm surprised Arsenal have done it. I was never behind the signing of Garcia for 25 million. I appreciate that he's an upcoming talent and he might go on to be the best goalkeeper in the world, but we've just come out of a really sticky situation where we had David Raya and Ramsdale vying for the number 1 shirt. We don't really want to open that can of worms again. I think we just want a really, solidified number 1. We've got that now, and we want someone in reserve that can challenge him, yes, but also fill in as and when required. And Kepa is exactly that. The money makes complete sense. He's played in the Premier League. He's won trophies. He had a very good season last season by all accounts for Bournemouth. The money made sense. It's just a really good bit of business, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings. And I think he'll play a bit more than people expect. I think we've got a guy compared to, say, Neto last season, who Arteta didn't trust, that hopefully Arteta will have a bit of faith in, and we actually see him play, all the Carabao Cup games, all the FA Cup games, the odd Champions League game here and there. Because I think for him as well, he's too good to sit on the bench. It'd be a waste for him to just spend an entire year on the bench, which is why I'm kind of surprised from his point of view that he's actually made this move, because he was playing a lot of football for Bournemouth. He was even at Real Madrid not too long ago playing football for them, and now he's going to be an understudy. So I do kind of wonder why he's done that. But maybe there's some sort of guarantee that Arteta said you're definitely going to play all the cup games. So yeah, we'll see. But it's for us at least, it's a very good bit of business.
Can I just jump in on one thing on that? I'm also surprised that Bournemouth didn't go in for him. Or maybe they did, and he just wasn't interested in staying at Bournemouth, because he's just established himself as the number 1 there. He had a good season. They did quite well. And they, under Iriola, they're a good team, and they probably will look to kick on as well. So I'm really surprised that he didn't look at that and go, do you know what, I'll go for that. But again, perhaps it speaks more to the player thinking, I've got a chance at one of the teams in the Champions League, and I think I can dislodge Raya. I mean, I don't believe that to be true, but hey, that's all positive from my point of view.
Yeah, no, it is. But I also think maybe Bournemouth's number 1 or Arsenal's number 2. Where would you go? I suppose it's a tough one, that, because he's definitely not our number 1. He's definitely our number 2. So it's maybe he's been promised quite a few games, because remember, this is what we've all been screaming for. We have needed squad depth, and now it looks like we're finally getting squad depth, and I'm very happy he's there. I'd say someone else that I'm really happy about, and I'm quite surprised, was Christian Norgard from Brentford. I'm really pleased about that signing, Cooks. Another defensive midfielder, more cover that, as we need. Are you pleased with him coming?
Yeah, very much so. My only slight, and it's a very, very slight reservation, is that I do feel like where we've gone from having Partey and Jorginho for a number of years, and that was kind of quite solidified in the midfield. We knew our number 6 was effectively going to be one of them or Declan Rice. There now feels like there's a bit of a wholesale change in that area of the pitch, and I just wouldn't expect things to run like clockwork almost immediately, which is why I think getting them in for pre-season is imperative, because you hope come out match day 1 against United, whether it's Norgard, whether it's Zubimendi, they're up to speed and they're ready to go, and they've kind of formed a bit of an understanding with their teammates. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Norgard that starts at Old Trafford, to be honest with you. He's played in the Premier League. He knows, he should know the system well. I know Chris is shaking his head, but I wouldn't put this sort of thinking beyond Arteta. But it's really good to just have someone that's a little bit younger. Looks like he's got a really good head on his shoulders. Really cheap as well. Like 10 million quid. What's that? Like 10 plus 2 or whatever it was. That's so cheap in this day and age. So really, really happy with that piece of business. I know there was a bit of debate going around whether, Zubimendi and Partey, is that better than, say, Zubimendi and Norgard? But for me, Norgard, he's always available, as is Zubimendi. And I mean, they're just really good players to have in the team. So yeah, good bit of business, Premier League proven, cheap, brings experience to a team that desperately needs it in some areas of the pitch. And I think he'll play a lot more games than people are expecting.
Chris, I'm happy with the signing. I really am. But you've just been shaking your head. What are you against?
I was shaking my head at James saying that he starts at Old Trafford. I think this is a fantastic
maybe. Come on.
I think there's absolutely no chance he starts at Old Trafford unless there's an injury. But if you think about what Zubimendi's been brought in to do, and if you think about the fact that he's joined us so early in the window, Arteta is going to be drilling into him the Arsenal way, the Arteta way, like from literally the second he walked through the door. They're now on tour. He's going to get, what is it, 3-4 games that we play? He's going to get 3-4 games to start to acclimatise. We've not got a guy sitting in the base of our midfield who's only just signing. I do get what you were saying about the whole Partey and Jorginho missing and that continuity, Premier League experience, that continuity side. I do get it, but I just think what we're expecting from Zubimendi, and I think what we'll get from Zubimendi, because let's remember as well, this guy's a Spanish international that's played hundreds and hundreds of games for Sociedad and on an international stage. And it's an interesting one because you imagine that Man United, with the type of team they are, with how they want to play, this isn't going to be one of those, pardon the cliche, cold Tuesday nights in the Midlands type thing. This is going to be, August, hopefully warm weather, although it's Manchester, so I do appreciate that. It's going to be a high octane game. It's going to be first of the season. It's going to be a big one, and there's going to be space, I think, for the likes of Zubimendi to work. So I can't see. It was more Manda. It was more. I can't see Norgard starting, but I can see him getting 15, maybe 20 appearances, maybe 15.
I think you say 15, 20 minutes. That's why I was nodding. Okay,
he'll certainly get 15 over the season. He'll certainly get 15, maybe 20 starts, maybe. But I think appearances wise, he can probably look for 30 odd and maybe even 30, 35, and half of them at least coming off the bench.
We're challenging on four fronts though, Chris, that, he may start every League Cup game. He may start in the FA Cup. You see, for me, the most important thing this year, I don't care about anything else. I just want to win the Champions League. Now, I know most people are the Premier League, but we'll have this conversation in a couple of weeks when we do our preview show for the season. But for me, I think this is what he's doing. Do you remember months ago, I think, Cook, someone said to you, how many players do we need in the summer? And you went 6 or 7. Well, he's doing exactly what we need, isn't he? I mean, we're going to go on to the ones that haven't signed, but are looking like they're so close to signing, which, I think announcements just need to be made. And we did touch on the fact that you had Daniel from Son of Chelsea on your show. Now we can talk about that because Chris is here. So I'm going to try and say it again. It is Noni Madueke. I think that's correct. And I just want to say something about this before we go into him. So when last week everyone was quite shocked. I wasn't, but everyone was quite shocked that there was even this talk of this, the abuse that poor boy got and his family from Arsenal fans was absolutely disgusting. And I've waited to rant until this show. How dare you absolutely not welcome a player that has decided he wants to leave Chelsea and come to Arsenal just because he's at Chelsea doesn't mean he's not very good. Listen, and I will go to you, Cooks, in a second because I heard what Daniel said about him. That have people not learned that everyone threw their toys out over Havertz, and look what happened with Havertz. You can be disappointed. It's personally fine if you're a bit shocked he's gone for a player that you don't expect. But to abuse a player who has just virtually signed for Arsenal and to do that is outrageous. And I've never, ever agreed with Rio Ferdinand in my life, and it probably will never happen again. But his long post that he wrote about the disgraceful behaviour of some Arsenal fans, I couldn't agree with more. He hasn't put a shirt on yet. I keep arguing with this with people, my work colleagues, everybody. He hasn't put the shirt on yet. He hasn't crossed the white line. Give the boy a chance, and for God's sake, welcome him. I do know for a fact that a lot of social media are not actually at the Emirates, like us three and many people in the chat room. However, it is absolutely disgusting. Can you imagine signing a contract, coming to Arsenal and being treated like that? I was absolutely fuming, and I said so. And so many people who don't follow me came for me. I couldn't care less. It's water off ducks back for me. But can you imagine, Cooks, Harry must have felt seeing that, and his family seeing that as well.
Yeah, what I find bizarre about it is how irate people get about transfers.
Yeah.
It never used to be like this. I don't think anyway. We would be excited about a transfer in the past, or we would not be so excited about a transfer in the past. But to be so vocal and so just downright abusive and horrible about a transfer, I'm certain this is coming from a younger or different generation of Arsenal fans. Because I would have loved to have seen how these people would have reacted during that summer where we just signed Petr Cech, or when we just, were signing players like Sebastian Squillaci. Can you imagine what Twitter would be like during that time? Like if it was fast forwarded to now. So it's the going rate for what is a Premier League, you could say, proven winger. I was not excited about this transfer. I've still got many question marks about it. I still don't know if he's going to play on the left, if he's going to play on the right. I think he'll play a lot of football, but he's not a player that is by any means the finished article. He's only 23, so he's still got levels to go in his game. And Arteta has a very, very, very good record with wingers. So that's what makes me feel a little bit more positive and excited about this. And I do think he can become a better player. But it's not one that I'm, jumping up and down about, really excited about, but I'm curious about it for sure. And when you look at, us signing Gyokeres for a similar fee, I don't feel like it's 55 million, 52 million, whatever it is. Like, is that massive amounts in this day and age when you see Alanga going for similar fees, Kudu's going for even more than that? I'm not really sure. Given he's English, given he's still got, many, many years ahead of him, it's not the worst deal in the world, but obviously he's got to prove that on the pitch. But yeah, I just found it crazy how many people were like, okay, that's it now. It's Arteta out from here on in because we're signing Madueke. And then a couple of days later, we get virtually a here we go on Gyokeres. And, okay, are we just going to ignore that, but focus in on, Madueke, a guy you don't want? I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it's just absolutely absurd, the fallout from it.
So can I just say that, before I come to Chris, that I'm wondering what's going to happen if he does set the world on fire, and he is fantastic. We have been, and as James said in the chat room, we have been screaming for cover for Saka. We don't know how bad the injury was. He's only come back the last month or so. He cannot play every game. I don't want to see Saka every game. I want to see Saka in games that we are most games, obviously, but I'm talking about the FA Cup, the League Cup, earlier stages of the Champions League, maybe. The boy needs a rest. It showed that when he pulled up with his hamstring. So just I will tell you a couple of Chelsea fans what they said to me. One said, very good signing, he's going to surprise you. One said he's very selfish, but he could become very good. So did Daniel allude? I think Daniel alluded to the fact that he said, didn't he? He was more gutted that Madueke's left than Havertz at the time.
Yeah, I think he feels that he's got more potential. Whereas, I mean, with Havertz leaving, Chelsea almost immediately replaced him with Cole Palmer, and they never really looked back. Whereas with Madueke, they've brought in, Gittins, they've got Estabio coming through. If those guys play really, really well next season, then they're not going to be thinking about Noni Madueke. But that's kind of we spoke about it on the podcast. That's the Chelsea model. They bring in so many players that when they let one go, it doesn't really hurt them so much because they tend to have someone in reserve. Like, they've not got a lot of super duper integral players. They can chop and change quite a lot, apart from maybe, Caicedo, Cole Palmer, and, arguably players like Enzo Fernandez. That squad is quite fluid in terms of the way they move players around. But yeah, he is a bit of a maverick, which we don't really have He's going to take players on. He's going to lose the ball a hell of a lot. But that's just part of his game. And it'll be nice to have someone that's unpredictable, that's going to be a bit more direct. What I quite like about him, and from watching him at Chelsea, what I've liked about him is, compared to Saka, who is... He is a winger, but he does slow the game down, not to his detriment, but he can slow it down to his pace.
Yeah.
And even though opposition know what he's going to do, he still does it. He's not like going to burst down the wing, not like Theo Walcott, for example, whereas Noni Madueke will do that. He's more of a bit more of a touchline winger. And he puts good crosses into the box. Like he creates a lot of opportunities for his teammates. And I think, had Chelsea had someone more prolific up top last season compared to Nicholas Jackson, he'd have got a lot more goal contributions. So, yeah, excited to see what he's going to bring.
Okay, so Chris, if I'm not wrong, De Bruyne and Salah, didn't they come from Chelsea?
Yes, but they went somewhere else first. Let's have that right.
Okay.
They went somewhere else first, established themselves, and then came in. Perhaps if that was the path that he'd have taken, and I've seen some people or heard some people on other podcasts and social media saying, imagine if he was coming from a Bournemouth now or a Fulham or whatever it was, there'd probably be a little bit of a different perspective, which I get. I understand. That's fair enough. Few issues that I have. So again, all the caveats you've already talked about. He walks in through that door, and you're not going to hear me complaining about, I didn't want him. He's a disgrace. I mean, if he plays terribly and if he turns into being a Gervinho style, then it's not going to be long before we'll all be saying this wasn't the right move.
Yes, but we do need to give him time to bed into a new formation.
I get that. I totally get that. And so what I'm trying to say is, I'm still to be convinced by this, but I'm happy to be convinced because I said exactly the same thing on this podcast, on my blog, to anybody that would listen with Kai Havertz. I didn't understand the signing of Kai Havertz. I didn't know why we were signing a guy who plays up front, who only gets 10 goals a season. It wasn't what we needed. If we were playing him left 8, then I thought, all right, maybe. But the first few games in left 8, he wasn't great in an Arsenal shirt. But now I look at Kai Havertz and think, well, he's our starting. I mean, we can talk all we like about Gyokeres, and I'm sure we will, but Kai Havertz needs to start at Old Trafford because the guy has been brilliant for us. I'm turned around on the subject. So I am happy to admit that I'm willing to be turned around on the subject. But challenges for me at the moment, I take James's point about Elanga, but Elanga is coming in to start and has just come off of a really, really good season. I'm not sure whether Madueke has had as great a season. So personally, just from the little that I saw of him, I think that he's coming into a defined position, whereas we're talking about 50 million quid for a rotational option, which to me is too much money. I hate to invoke the law of Transfermarkt, but Transfermarkt has him down as 40 million euros, which is what, 35 million quid, which I feel like is probably about market value. I listened to your pod. The Chelsea, or Daniel saying, oh yeah, it feels about market value. As fans, we always inflate our own team's players. Like, I'm looking at what's happening with Reece Nelson and thinking, yeah, 20 million quid, we'll take that. But we've just heard today that Fulham are saying, we'll take him on loan for you if you like. We always inflate it. I think your mate, the Chelsea fan, was inflating his value personally because it feels like he's a 35-ish million pound footballer. And if you're bringing someone in as a rotation option to try and establish things, great. I don't think he's any better than... I think you said this as well, James. I don't think he's any better than Martinelli on the left. So at the moment, we've bought ourselves a £50 million backup, which just feels like we could have redistributed the money elsewhere. And to stop this long monologue for turning into a bit too much of a ramble, I also look on Transfermarkt at his injury record, which for 23 years old does have me going... Because last season he missed 8 games. Season before he missed 5 games. Season before that he missed 20 games. The season before that he missed 33 games. And the season before that he missed 10 games. So he does come with a bit of an injury record, which is a slight concern for me.
I find it... Do you know what? It's like it's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Because... Or whatever damned if he do. This is what we've been screaming for all these positions to be, we need that squad depth to actually try and actually win the league, the Premier League, FA Cup trophy. And both of you are like, well, I'm really surprised. And he's 50 million. It's not our money. I don't care if he does the
It is our
job.
money. We
not our
literally
money.
pay for season tickets. We buy
It's not our
shirts.
money, Chris. It's not.
I pay for, hold on, Amanda. I pay for a Sky Sports subscription. I pay for a BT
Right.
Sports subscription. So all of that money gets ploughed back into the game, and it gets given to the clubs.
Okay. If
It
you think
is
it's your
literally
money,
our
but you
money.
don't have a say in it, Arsenal Football Club, you don't work for them. You are not Berta, you are not Arteta, and you're not the Cronkies. So I couldn't care less how much these players are. Just get them in and get them working for us. But
Can I just come back to you on that just for 1 second, and I'll let you respond. If I told you, as a result of spending £50 million on Madueke, we now can't go for an Eze because we've got a certain amount of cash, or we can go for Eze, but we've now got to sell a Martinelli, or we've got to sell Martinelli and Trossard because we've spent that extra £20 million as opposed to spending £30 million on a backup. We've spent 50 million. So that 20 million quid, which we would have been able to spend elsewhere, or at least top up on other bigger signings, we now can't do. When you look at it like that, do you still say, I don't care?
I tell you what, Chris, what makes me laugh at any of this is that I honestly think that fans, and I'm not only talking about you, think transfers are that easy that you'll go, right, if we spend 50 million, we can't get Eze. We may not be able to get Eze anyway. That's the thing. It may be Crystal Palace won't sell him, he won't come. It's irrelevant. I'm sorry, it's irrelevant. You have to try. When you're at work, I'm sorry, Chris, hold on a second. When you're at work and your manager employs people, it's not your decision. You may have an opinion and think they're not going to work. You could be wrong. They could work, them or not. But it's not our decision as employees or fans of a club of what we think the money should go on. We're not involved in transfers. I do find it funny that people go, why hasn't he bought this one? Why didn't he do this in January? Maybe he couldn't. Maybe the player wouldn't come. I think it's because I'm friendly with certain people that deal in that side more than the fan side. Of course, we all want the best players. We all want Gyokeres to sign. We all want all this done, and we want the best players. And I totally understand that. And I said it last year. I would have loved Isak from Newcastle to be our striker. I think I would have loved that. The mutings that he's going to go, Liverpool are interested. He won't be leaving Newcastle. I can 99% in my mind, he's not going to leave Newcastle. All Liverpool fans will go, and it's all kicking off with them, which is let them get on with it. But I honestly, I don't get into those conversations about, well, we could have spent 50 million on this player. You might not be able to get that player. I trust Arteta. I trust Arteta and Bertrand in what they're doing and the business they're doing, because the proof will be in the pudding, Chris, because we all know that everyone asks us, how long is it until you'll give Arteta time to go? When you think it's time to go. And last season, not that he's let off, but the injuries and everything, for me, that's not a season that I can even judge. This season, if he's spending all this money and bringing all these different players in, we want to see a trophy at the end of it, don't we? I'm absolutely not saying that I would want Arteta out. No, that's not in my psyche, especially not at the moment. I don't work like that. But I just find it fascinating that you sit there and go, well, we could have spent the money on somebody else. Who? And if we get Eze, will you then come back and say, well, actually, we got Eze, we got Gyokeres, we got Rodrigo, and all these players that are rumoured, if they all come, then what will you say?
It's not about that. What I'm trying to say is we work within confines of PSR. Right? So if I tell you you've got £100 million to spend, you can spend £100 million on one player for one position. You've just said it, Isak. Or you can spend £33 million on three players and cover different positions. What's the sort of thing that you want to go for? Like, let's divorce ourselves from any names here. Let's forget about the Maduekes. Let's forget about anything. What would you rather go for? But this is my point. If Arsenal have a set amount of money to spend, imagine in this instance, 100 million, we've just spent it on £50 million on a rotation player. Or would you rather spend two sets of £30 million, for example, on two different players for different positions if they're going to be rotation? Because we all agree that one of our problems last season is because of the injuries, we had depth. So my point is not about, I don't want Madueke. It's about, I think the value is too high. So I cannot believe that there weren't other options out there for less than 50 million quid that would be rotation options. I have no issue with the Madueke thing. This is not about Madueke. This is actually about trying to augment our squad. I think we need to get away from that bit. That's my point.
So today you think Madueke is not worth 50 million quid. In your head, he's worth 30, 35, and you'd have been all right with that, or even less, you're saying. Yeah? Okay. But and I think this is what I want to say with Julian as well. Until we see them, you can't say that, because I tell you why. He could be like Raheem Sterling, and I'll be sitting here in 6 months going, it just didn't work. You two were right to have your doubts. It just didn't work. Or he could come on and shine and be incredible, and he'd be worth double 50 million. He'll be worth 100 million next season. You know what I'm saying?
Hopefully
So I
happens.
don't put prices on players. So I think it's slightly different for me. We don't know their budget either, Chris, as well. We don't know how much money they've got to spend, and we don't actually know what's really going on at the moment. There's a lot of rumours, obviously, which now's your two, because I don't talk rumours, only signed. So Cooks, it does look like Gyokeres, and I've actually said it correctly. Cookie, sorry. It does look like Gyokeres is going to sign. It's very close. And I mean, I'm assuming the three of us, well, I'm ecstatic. Are you happy about that, or was it the Sesko that you wanted more?
I'll be honest, Amanda, I didn't care. I really was not Team Sesko or Team Gyokeres. I just wanted Arsenal to make a decision and stick to it. I totally get why people had a preference. Gyokeres has scored, I think, the most goals in football since 23-24. Sesko is 5 years younger. He's got room to grow, has so much potential, could explode, and I'm sure whatever happens in his career, he will go on to do really, really well. But I also totally got that Gyokeres is kind of the ready-made guy, and even if he does even a third of his output that he did at Sporting for us, that 15 goals, I think he'll get more than that for the record, but let's say he does get 15 goals, worst case scenario is 15 goals that we didn't have last season. And given that the fee is not mental, I'm really happy with it. Like we needed a guy that just knows how to put the ball in the back of the net, and I love the comparison that people are making, saying that we had Mikel Merino playing up top for us towards the back end of last season. Look how many goals he got. You know, if we could just have an actual out-and-out striker and a guy that, what I love about him is that he just barrages through defences. He's not afraid to just run with the ball and then lever it in the back of the net. Who have we got in our team that can do that, really and truly? So to have someone who's a bit of a different profile, who should guarantee us goals, is going to be competition for Havertz, but can also play with Havertz. Just to have a proper out-and-out striker. When did we last have an actual striker that is a striker? Because people are going to debate that Havertz isn't a striker, Jesus isn't a striker. The last one we signed was Aubameyang or Lacazette, you know, whatever way you look at that. So, yeah, I think it's a really good signing. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about Moscera as well, but I think that's a really, really, really good bit of business.
Whose story you cut out then? Who Cooks?
Moscera.
Yeah, we're coming to him. He's on my list. Okay, my list of potentials. But Gyokeres, obviously, I think it's going to happen. I wouldn't even be sitting here talking about it. The fact that he won't play for Sporting anymore, what's gone on the last couple of weeks. I also heard on the grapevine he was coming anyway. So, Chris, are you happy about it, or did you want Sesko? I can't remember.
I did definitely want Sesko. That was my first choice. I just think the potential upside on him is a lot greater than Gyokeres, but I'm not going to sit here and cry over any spilt milk or anything, because as all of the reasons James already highlighted, we're getting a good centre forward in. One of the things that I'm really interested about Gyokeres is we need to get him in sooner rather than later, because I want to see how quickly he can develop a relationship with whoever plays on that left wing. Because Gyokeres, the positions he takes up, and he did this against Arsenal in the Champions League as well, it's in that left channel. So I wonder if the signing of Gyokeres and when he plays could actually help the likes of Martinelli to really thrive. Because if you think about when we signed Gabriel Jesus, he naturally gravitates to that left-hand side. And so they were linking up with each other quite well. If Gyokeres is going to do the same, then there's a potential to really see Martinelli explode as well. So that's why also we're hearing these rumours about, Saudi or Germany or whatever it is, or even I heard one about Barcelona being interested in Martinelli if they can't get Luis Diaz from Liverpool. For me personally, I want to see what a Gyokeres and Martinelli left-hand side could look like, because I think it could be quite exciting, particularly if you think about the fluidity of them. So if Gyokeres is just drifting across, it gives Martinelli the license to come inside instead of just having chalk on his boots all the time and running it down the line, which I think frustrates some fans. Certainly in the stadium around me, they get frustrated when we see Martinelli down the line and then put balls in, and he's not always the most accurate on that side. But if they can flip between the two, it could be quite exciting, actually, to see Martinelli bagging the goals again.
So just coming to you again, Chris, a couple of people have said to me, so where does Havertz start? When will he start? If Gyokeres signs, when will he start? Where will he play? Because I actually think
up front. First game, I bet he plays. I bet he plays up front. Yeah.
What, Gyokeres on the bench?
Yeah. I honestly think he will, because I think number one, he'll try and blood him, he'll try and bed him in. But number two, I just feel Arteta loves Havertz. Like, he literally moved heaven and earth to prize him out of Chelsea. And Havertz has been beefing himself up by the sound of it, and he'll be raring to go. And we have that continuity as well. I think Arteta will favour continuity. I realise the irony of that, having said he won't play Norgard over Zubimendi, but I think in this instance he'll start with Havertz up top. I think it will be similar to the goalkeeper sort of situation under Raya and Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale had the jersey to start off, but he quickly lost it after a few games. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Havertz, but I think Havertz starts with the jersey.
So so if that does happen and Raya played every game, does Gyokeres do that? Is Havertz going to be happy the position? Because obviously every time Havertz was fit, he played. He only didn't play when he wasn't fit.
James, I feel like you want to say some words, because
I'm just thinking you need to move away from that way of thinking,
yeah,
because it's a squad game, and that was a massive problem for us last season. We had no strikers, and now we've got two players that can do a job very, very well. I mean, Havertz, for me, I know people say he plays in the left eight. For me, he's a forward. He is a striker, and there are going to be some instances where we might come up against low blocks, or we want to throw the kitchen sink at it, where we play Havertz as a left eight or in the Ødegaard role, and effectively he's playing as a bit of a false nine in support of someone like Gyokeres. But I think it's great that we've got two, and they're both going to share a hell of a lot of games. Gyokeres isn't going to start the same number of games that he started at Sporting. Havertz isn't going to have to take all the weight up front that he did for the majority of last season. Havertz is such a versatile player and such an important part of this team. Whether he's starting or coming off the bench, I'm pretty sure he's going to make minimum 33 Premier League appearances next season.
Yeah,
bare minimum. That's if he stays fit, fingers crossed, because Arteta really values him, and so do I. I really, really, really rate Kai Havertz. I can't believe that people think he was a waste of money. I look back at that 65 million quid, and I think he's kind of been worth every penny for what he's returned in goal contributions. So, yeah, they're going to share the workload. It's not even a problem. It's a good solution to have, because we didn't have it last season. So enjoy them both.
Can I just build on what James has just said? Just if we go back to last season, I was just looking, because I was thinking, when was this? Do you remember on the 15th of September away, we played Tottenham at their toilet bowl? Happy days, Gabriel. Good header. Bang. Love it. And then 4 days later, we went away to Atalanta and we got a 0-0 draw. And then 4 days after that, we went away to Man City with that infamous Trossard sending off, and we got the 2-2. That's a scenario that's just about within a week, 3 games within a week, where you could totally envisage seeing a Havertz, Gyokeres, Havertz, or a Gyokeres, Havertz, Gyokeres. So for me, that's building on James's point. I think that's where the depth comes in, because Arteta can look at that and say, right, Kai, you're going to be my game. You're going to be my guy for Tottenham away. Victor, I'm going to need you for Atalanta away. And then Kai, I'm going to bring you back in for City away. Or you're going to share sort of 60 minutes.
Sorry, before we move on to the next point, can we just highlight this comment about Havertz being a square peg in a round hole? Does anyone actually believe this? Because no. I look at Havertz and I think he offers so much where he plays in the pitch. I don't know how people can look at him up top and think he's clunky. He is such a technically gifted footballer. And his return in terms of goals and assists is really good. I honestly don't know what people's problem is with him.
Honestly, if you look at the numbers, Havertz was on course for a 20-goal season last season, the way he started without that injury. He got close. He would have got close to it as well. He probably would have beaten it too. But I'm with you, James. It's not. I don't see that. If you think about what are his strengths, he's good in the air, hold up play. He's a link player. He works really, really well for us as a centre forward.
Do you know what? The argument I had was they said he'll never play again. It'll be Gyokeres. I said, don't be ridiculous. This is ridiculous talk. One was an Arsenal fan, one wasn't. And I was just sitting there saying, you do realise this is what we've missed. We had Mikel Merino. I don't understand where the problem comes in. They'll all get time. They will all get time. And what will happen is we will see Saka rested. We will see Havertz rested. You will see Gyokeres rested, and this is a wonderful thing. This is exactly what we have wanted Arteta to do. Absolutely. So we move on to the next rumour. I think one that we all want, Eze. His name is Ebereki Eze.
Close. Very, very close.
I'll go on. What is it? Eberechi?
I feel like you're not even trying, Amanda. Come on.
She does this on purpose. I swear, mate.
She does. 1,000,000%.
I do not do it on purpose. I do not do it for effect. It's embarrassing that I can't say their names. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have even hook, line, and sinker on that one. I call him Eze. That's correct. A born Arsenal fan, player who would be incredibly excited to play for us, and cooks. We want him, don't we?
Yeah, he would be the crown jewel for me.
Yeah.
Get Eze done, and I'm happy. Don't need anything more after that. I am more than happy with the transfer business we would have done. He would be spot on. For whether he's playing in that left hand 8 side of the pitch in the Declan Rice sort of role if we want something different. We could fill in for the Odegaard role if we need to. We could play with dual 10s at times, so we could have Nweri on one side, we could have Eze on the other side. And most importantly, he's played a hell of a lot of games and got really good numbers on the left wing. So if we want something completely different to Martinelli or Trossard, if he ends up staying, we've got that in Eze. He's again a versatile, exciting player, a maverick like Madueke, and we need more players like that. Also wears another headband at the minute, so maybe that's something that could be a bit of a thing next season. But he would be an excellent addition. He's like that signing that for me would be on that Ozil, Alexis Sanchez sort of level, the real Arsenal version of a Galactico. And we haven't really, we're getting some good players in, we're getting some exciting players, but these are players we know we need, whereas Eze would be a bit of a, oh yeah, that's going to take us up to another level. We mean real business now by getting him. I would much, much, much rather have him than Rodrigo. But it would be interesting to see if we do get him, because I think we have to. And I know that's maybe being a little bit greedy, but I would lean on what you said earlier, Chris. If we don't get him, I will be constantly racking my brains thinking, well, why did we spend that money on Madueke when we could have got Eze? So I sincerely hope we do get him, so I'm not having to have those dark thoughts.
Okay, so I'll say it again. What happens if the player's not released by Palace or...
Well, he can be released. He's got a release clause, so he can come
Right.
to Palace, and we've agreed personal terms. So this deal could happen if we stumped up the cash.
We've agreed personal terms. Is that fact? Because I don't know, because I don't watch all this. But we've agreed personal terms with him.
From what we've seen, that's not been an issue.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd like him, obviously. I think he's a great player. I think it would be amazing to have him as well. Chris, any thoughts on Eze?
I think he's a fantastic player. I was on the Arsenal Opinion podcast with Johnny and Pete talking about Eze, and my kind of hot take was, I think that he unlocks Gabriel Martinelli as well, because of if you think about the way in which we play on the right-hand side with those, I've heard other, the Clive, I think, coined this a few years ago, talking about pods. So you had Ben White, Odegaard and Saka and the relationship they have on that right-hand side. On the left-hand side, there's not really any kind of connectors. There is not the level of it. But can you imagine a Lewis Skelly, an Eze, and a Martinelli interchanging pod? And what it does is it then enables teams to be looking at it on a Friday. They're playing Arsenal on a Saturday, and they're looking at potential, how are Arsenal going to line up? And it gives Arteta different tactical strings to his bow. And that, for me, is fantastic. what we're going to do this week, or even in game. We're spending our time going down the right-hand side. We're up against a team that has decided to double up on that side. Absolutely fine. Let's mix it up. Eze comes on that left-hand side. We bring someone like Rice, or drop them Rice into the 8. Maybe Zubimendi comes off, whatever it is. We're now going to go down that left-hand side. Or, crazy as this sounds, imagine we're facing a low block and we say, do you know what? Screw it. We're going to have 2 pods. We're going to have 2. We're going to right have 8 as an Odegaard, left 8 as an Eze, Martinelli left wing, Saka right wing, Gyokeres or Havertz up top, and you've got 2 very attacking number 8s, because we know we're going to play a West Ham, or we're going to play an Everton, and they're going to camp on the edge of their box. So we're going to flood the entire team full of creative players who can unlock things. I think it's a very exciting signing. I want to see it.
I do too. Okay, we've got 2 left. The one before last is Rodrigo, right winger. Christopher, I'll start with you. Thoughts on, would you like him? Do we need him? Do you think he'll come?
So this is the thing. I don't think it's going to happen now because of the Madueke thing.
Okay.
And I think probably what's happened behind the scenes, and this is just speculation, is that Arsenal have probably gone to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid have quoted a crazy number. There's talks about 100 million euros, and I think that's why Arsenal have probably pivoted. I think it's basically a 5% chance that this happens now, unless we sell somebody. And at this stage, I think it's probably just not. It's probably we've made our decisions, and that's it. And that's probably colouring some of my Madueke, because I wanted the Rodrigo signing, and so perhaps that's part of my. Well, I would have preferred this, but it probably wasn't realistic. So I don't think it's going to happen. He plays left wing as well. You said right wing, but he's not coming in to play right wing. He doesn't want to play right wing for Real Madrid. He's not going to play right wing for Arsenal, and he wouldn't get in anyway because Saka. So he'd come in as a left winger. It would be the dream signing, but it ain't happening.
Okay. Do you not think it's happening either, Chris? James, sorry.
I'd be surprised if it was a toss-up between Eze and Rodrigo. Like I said before, I would be putting everything in the Eze basket. I like Rodrigo. I appreciate him. But I'm not clamouring for him in the same way that I was for, say, Alexis when we were linked for him. You know, it wouldn't give me the same dopamine rush. I do like him. I think he's got a lot to offer. I'm not blown away by his numbers. I think they're okay. I wasn't at all impressed with him when we played them not too long ago. And I know, okay, he's playing in his not so favoured position on the right-hand side, but he's played there for a long time now, and he should be accustomed to playing that way. But we, dealt with him really well. He didn't offer much. And I think it's totally unrealistic to think that we're going to get Eze and Rodrigo. And I still think we've got a very, very, very good player in Martinelli. Like, Martinelli's numbers aren't too dissimilar to Rodrigo's. So I'm fine with it. And to be honest, Eze has, I think, superior numbers to Rodrigo, playing for a lesser team in a tougher league. And that's the obvious signing for me. Have your options on your left-hand side. If Trossard stays, that's a bonus, but I think he'll go. But let's say he does stay. You've got Trossard, Martinelli, and Eze, and even Madueke as an option on your left-hand side. That's good enough for me. I'll be more than happy with that. So just bring me Eze, and we can draw a line under the transfer window before even going into August. How nice would that be?
Bring me Eze.
I think it's fun. I just think it's funny that I understand football fans. They sit there and go, we could have spent 50 million on him and we could have got him for that. It's not as simple as that. But anyway, right. The last one we're going to speak about, you mentioned him before, Cooks, is, and I'm going to get this right now, Christian Moscera.
Yes.
Is that right?
You actually tried. Wow.
Wherever. That looks quite promising, doesn't it, by what I've been reading? And I have read a few things this week. So, Cooks, what would a right-footed centre-back bring to our team?
A lot, I think. And I'll be the first one to say I wasn't expecting us to go in for this type of player. I think Tomiyasu's contract being torn up maybe changes things a little bit. But I thought we were pretty well stocked on that right-hand side of the pitch. Maybe in hindsight, we weren't, but I thought with Ben White there, with Yuri and Timber there, with Saliba there, those three could rotate quite a bit, and it was working quite well. last season for the times that Ben White was fit. But maybe that plays a part in why we've gone on and signed this guy, because it lessens the burden on all three of those players. We can take out Saliba every now and then. We don't have to play Timber, Ben White all the time. So I'm really excited by it. I don't know what we're getting. He looks like a bit of a diamond in the rough, but he's played 2 pretty much complete seasons with Valencia, top side in La Liga. Okay, maybe they're not as good as they were, but they're still, very established La Liga sides. And he's been a crucial part of that side. He's just been and done really well with Spain in the under-21 championships. And to get him for what? Under 20 million euros? Mental. Like, that is a really good bit of business for such a young, promising, you have to say established 21-year-old centre-half. And he's going to be learning from some of the best defenders on the planet in Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Ben White. Yeah, he's as so many are saying in the chat box, he is the perfect cover, and I hope he plays a lot of football. I don't want to see him just on the bench. I want to see him, starting Champions League games against, teams that we expect to be. I want to see him playing every League Cup game, every FA Cup game, or as many as, he can do. So, yeah, really good. Again, like Norgard, like Kepa, low fee, sensible, and a player that is of such a good age profile. Like we're signing players at the kind of peak of their careers at the minute, with the likes of Zubimendi, Gyokeres, Norgard, who you could say is at the twilight zone of his career. Whereas with this guy, with Madueke, they're just getting started, really. So I like that kind of blend of youth and experience. It does tell me that we're looking towards the future as well as just trying to win now.
Gary Pepperman, we do not want to even have those thoughts in our head and put it in the universe. Thank you very much, young man. So, Chris, the last one we're going to talk about is Moscera. What's your thoughts on him?
I think it's a great signing. James talked about the fee, which is brilliant. We've got ourselves a guy that played 41 times last season for Valencia. More than 3,600 minutes, which is proper like full time. You're not getting dead minute appearances. This is a regular in the Valencia team. This is an impressive player. We're getting a dual merchant. We know how much Arteta loves a dual merchant. He's like 6'4", 6'5" as well. So we're getting a tall guy. We're getting a physical guy. And he's a guy that can play left centre-back as well as right centre-back. I think this means that if they can get a good fee for Kivior, they'll do it, because that will enable him. The fact he can play left and right, and I think he can play right back as well, means that I think he will get minutes. I think he'll get minutes across a few different games and positions, because if you're basically saying, I think this is probably the reason why, Fabrizio Romano was saying his only choice was Arsenal, because I think Arsenal have come to him and said, you're basically back up to both Saliba and Gabriel. And here's the other delicious bit of news. I was having a look at his injury record. I know he's only 21.
Oh, don't say it.
There's nothing. I'm touching wood. There's nothing on Transfermarkt. So up until this point, he has not been injured.
Okay, that's what we'll end it with, that, because just don't want to discuss that. We have got quite a few questions that we're going to get through. Just a couple of things as well. One sec. So the North Bank and Arsenal podcast, I'd like to thank you for having me on in the last couple of weeks. It was a pleasure to join you, and thank you for asking me all about Anfield 89, because these boys, as I said on the podcast, get so fed up listening to it that it was lovely that someone actually wanted to hear all about it again. As I said, they get bored. So thank you for joining our podcast as well. And also a big shout out to the Grove podcast, who invited me on as well. It's always lovely to go on other people's podcasts. So go and follow them, guys. This is the North Bank and Arsenal podcast and the Grove. Question: if we signed Eze, would it be the most universally liked signing, Christopher?
Probably, yeah. I don't know a single person that has said this wouldn't be good for us. So even the people like me who are a little bit stats dorky and a little bit like, oh, age profile, 27, oh, do we really want to do that? No resale value. Even I'm like, nah, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're all excited. I don't think this is controversial like Madueke, is it, James?
No, I think everyone was so excited by what Eze did in the league last season, and anyone who watched both the FA Cup final and the FA Cup semi-final will know what a good player Eze is and what he can do in big games and in big moments. I just think he'd be perfect for this Arsenal team. I think it would probably be the most universally loved signing than probably Ozil or Aubameyang. Just the excitement it would create would be great.
Absolutely. Okay. Carl Stark. Question. Is all the pressure on Arteta to win something this season? Does his job depend on silverware this season, Cooks?
Well, I think Arsenal fans will spontaneously combust if we don't win either the Premier League or the Champions League. But sadly, it's not as straightforward as that.
No.
You could spend 300 million quid this window on players that we all adore, but you might still lose the league because of a key injury or just because you're coming up against a side that have been absolutely impeccable, like Liverpool were last season. So nothing's guaranteed. That's football. You know, if we finish second again but get 92 points or whatever, are you going to sack him based on that? I mean, who's going to do better, really? I don't. That's a tough one to answer. I really don't want to answer it. It's so difficult. My expectation for the season is to win the league, one of the league or the Champions League. I think we have to do that, but I'm not going to be calling for his head if we don't win one of them. But we need to ultimately see progress, and we need to see us getting closer and closer, and well, winning it.
Christopher.
Sorry, I was just looking at the honesty. You're going to have to repeat that question because it's on the screen. I was looking at the screen. There's just been an on bomb around Olivier Smith, who is the Liverpool player who is about to sign for Arsenal for £1 million. It's the first £1 million footballer in the women's game, which is quite a nice milestone, actually, because it really shows how far the women's game has gone. But I'll get back to the question in hand. Sorry, I was just distracted by that on bomb. So go back. I've got to read the question to give you an answer.
Oh, I've taken it off now. What was the question, Cooks? My brain has gone. Oh, if Arteta doesn't win anything at the end of the season, is he gone?
Well, Arsenal won't sack him, no. But I think it depends on where we finish. If we finish like 5th, and we have an absolute shocker of a season, then maybe. But if he signs, if we have another season where we're decimated by injuries, then it's mitigation, and you've got to say, well, hold on a second. If we have enough players and the right players that stay fit, and we finish second and win something, then if we don't win something, I don't know. Yeah,
you don't think he's gone?
I don't think he'll go.
No. Okay. So just going back to the Gyokeres and Havertz, I was trying to find this actually during the chat. But do you think, Karen Russell, who is friend of the show, would you start both Havertz and Gyokeres at Old Trafford?
No.
Is this one for me?
Either of you. You can just say yes or no. Totally up to you.
I don't see that happening. I'll be very surprised if it happens. I think it'd be either one of them up top, and I completely agree with what Chris said earlier. I would be surprised if it's not Kai Havertz, and Gyokeres will be slowly bedded in. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Havertz for 60 minutes, then Gyokeres comes off the bench and scores a hat-trick. Like, that's the dream scenario, right? But if Gyokeres is really good in pre-season, like let's say he scores in every single game, bags a load, I wouldn't be surprised if he started either. But I just think because of Havertz's history, given that he's done so well for us up top, I don't think he's necessarily done anything to deserve not starting, if that makes sense. But like I say, if Gyokeres is banging him in over the next couple of weeks in Singapore and the Emirates Cup, you've got to play the guy in form, haven't you? But not both. That won't happen. Okay.
So you're convinced, aren't you, Chris, that Havertz starts?
Yeah, but I guess that's a caveat. You've got to put the caveat in what you said, James. Like, if he basically plays 3 or 4 friendly games and he's hat-tricks galore, then he's starting, isn't he?
Okay. Another friend of the show, Julian White, Second Nature SFX. Do you think Trossard stays, Cooks? A good player off the bench, but do you think he's going to stay?
I'd like him to stay, even if we sign Eze. And, you know, you might say, okay, we've suddenly gone from being threadbare in attack to maybe being a little bit too bloated. But I just think Trossard's a really useful player to have. I think if he did stay and we signed Eze, then his minutes would be extremely scarce. But to have someone like him who you can rely on, who Arteta trusts, who played, I think, virtually every single Premier League game last season, whether he started or came off the bench. Probably played too much football, in all honesty. I think he'd be just really handy to have around, especially given he can play in that false nine role as well and knows the team pretty much inside out as well. I think he'll go, sadly. If we can extract a decent transfer fee for him, I've not got an issue with that, so long as we bring in Eze. But yeah, he's been very, very good for us given the price we paid for him. And I'd like him to stick around, but I don't think he will.
What do you think, Chris? I mean, James is saying Trossard is going. We withdrew his new contract offers. Now he's going to go. I mean, sounds like he knows something.
Me and JJ are quite similar in our perspectives, but what we hear, but then also what we think, and I'm in agreement. I'm sure I've read somewhere or I've seen a couple of stuff on social media saying that Arsenal are probably going to have to make a sale, and it feels like Trossard, if they get the right money for it, will be one of those sales. If you can get 20 million for Trossard, then you've probably just got to take the money. And I suspect that Arsenal will sanction that, because if they get Eze in, that I think they'll absolutely sanction it, because it feels then we're a bit top heavy. We're a little bit. It feels like we're one too heavy in that instance.
I wouldn't be that disappointed if he left, if I'm honest. For me, he was good off the bench, but he's an okay player. That's how I feel. Right, it's so good we've got so many questions, but we will have to end soon. Let's end on Nigel. Nigel Plum, what do you think about Ethan Nwaneri potentially signing a new contract? I mean, I think it's amazing. I don't think it was ever in doubt. I think it was a lot of paper talk. But Cooks, what do you think? Do you think there was a chance that he could have gone?
There's always a chance. I don't think there was any inclination that he wanted to leave. I never really got that feeling from him, but obviously football is an agent's game now as well. I want to think the same about Saka and Saliba, but obviously they've not put pen to paper yet, so we know these things take time. And Nwaneri is one of the hottest prospects in football right now. He would have had the biggest clubs in Europe sniffing around him, and we're led to believe that Dortmund offered him the Jude Bellingham route, and he'd have played a hell of a lot of games there. So I'm hoping that Arsenal have shown him a really clear pathway. I don't believe for a second that he was demanding more game time. I think that should kind of come from the manager anyway. I'm sure Arteta wants to play him a lot because he has so much to offer. I suppose my only slight worry is where and how we use him, because he plays in Ødegaard's role. Are we now going to start filtering out our captain more often? I kind of hope we do. Like, no disrespect to Martin Ødegaard, but I really like Nwaneri. I want to see him playing more. So if we can take Ødegaard off at 60, 70 minutes, bring Nwaneri on, play Nwaneri more in Champions League games in that central role. That's where I think he's going to get his minutes, but that obviously comes with the caveat of Ødegaard will then have to play less, which I don't think is a bad thing, by the way. So, yeah, excited. It's very, very, very good news for us. If it's a 5-year deal, brilliant. You know, we've signed him for the long term, and that should ease off any external pressure. I just hope he plays a lot, because, you know, we're signing all these players. The squad is, like I said before, gone from quite thin to now quite heavy. So I just hope that there's going to be ample opportunities for him to play a lot of football, and I think there will be.
So just touching on that, Chris, last season, Nwaneri didn't have that many minutes. It was quite minimal, wasn't it? There was obviously reasons for that.
Oh no, he did. He did. He played a lot.
No, but there were many times, Cooks, that people were going, "Why isn't Nwaneri on the pitch? We need Nwaneri." So I think people were expecting him to play more. So I'm saying next season, I think we're going to see more of him, Chris. That's what I was trying to allude to.
Well, he got a fair few minutes. He made 37 appearances, 9 goals, 2 assists, and 1,378 minutes, which for a 17/18-year-old is pretty damn impressive.
Yes. No, I'm saying that, but people were saying all the time, weren't they? It's bring him on. What's, you know, he got 5 minutes in one game, 5 minutes in another. I'm just saying, I think we're going to see more of him, and I think there was reasons for that.
Yeah, I think we will see more of him. I think that was more towards the end of the season. I think towards the start of the season, I don't remember many people talking about we need to see him more when we had more players fit. I think what happened is he got into the team around, was that sort of February time when we were decimated with injuries, and he came on. I remember he had an absolute blinder against Leicester, didn't he? And then people were clamouring for it. But after about a dozen games, I think he just fell away a little bit, and Arteta took him out the side as we started to get players returning. And I think there was a bit of a clamour there for sure. It's whether or not he can kick on for next season is a big thing. But the contract signing, fantastic news. Really happy about that. Yeah, couldn't be happier.
So if we haven't got anything else, any other things that you want to talk about, we've been an hour and 15 and we probably could have gone much longer. So it's a fantastic show. You two, anything else you want to talk about before I say goodbye?
No, I just I think they should announce something tomorrow. If I was gut feeling, it would be Madueke and then Moscera, and they'll get them on the plane to Singapore. I think the Gyokeres stuff will probably be going to next week by the sound of it.
I think Madueke, I don't think he'll go on tour, to be honest. Given that he's just played the Club World Cup with Chelsea.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't be surprised if he went on the tour but didn't play, just to be part of the group. They might say, look, come on tour with us, but we're not expecting you to play until the Emirates Cup, for example, which I think might be a good way to bed him into the team, because he might feel like he wants to get to know his teammates, and he might end up playing towards the end of the tour, a minute or two, or 10, 20 minutes here and there. So I'm not expecting him to go away, but I agree. Moscera and Madueke, the world knows they're done. We just need to get them announced, and hopefully we get the here we go on Gyokeres.
Nice.
And then Eze.
Yep.
And then we'll all be looking forward so much to the season, even more than we were. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to be doing a show probably in a couple of weeks with a couple of brilliant Gooner girls. If you subscribe to us and hit the bell, you don't need to even follow any of us to see when these shows coming out. I think the boys might be back as well, but we will definitely be back, obviously, August before the season kicks off. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. It's been brilliant, and there's been over 700 of you watching as well via Twitter and other social media platforms. And on audio, our audio stats are going up as well, so we really appreciate it. If you could rate us, it gets us out there, so that's lovely. I'd also personally like to thank everyone for wishing me luck tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be fine. Thank you, everyone. Right, good night. Always, always Arsenal, and look forward to all the here we goes on Twitter. Take care.